Patrik Allvin continues his masterclass of a final 24 hours before the NHL draft, and we see defenseman Tyler Myers re-sign in Vancouver. We're going to get into this contract and how it affects the team later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to give a shout out to, it's actually at 2,901 when I just checked, but we're so close to 3,000. I was saying before July 1st, but I know you guys can get us that before tomorrow's draft. So make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. We'll be giving you updates on everything from re-signings to signings, free agency, draft, everything you can think of. So if you don't want to miss anything on the Canucks front, make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button, as we'll be here all offseason into next season. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Canucks re-sign Tyler Myers. Now, we got the tweet, and I wanted to point out the funny point of they said forward Tyler Myers, but don't be worried. This is the Canucks re-signing Tyler Myers, the defenseman, to a 3-year contract worth $3 million AAV. Now, this is a great deal in my opinion, as we're seeing the right-handed market shoot up in value. Guys like Tanev are looking at deals between $4 to $5 to even $6 million. So bringing back Tyler Myers on a $3 million deal, he did leave money on the table. We see 3 years, $3 million. In the final year, he has a 12-team no trade list. Other than that, it's just straight 3.41% of the cap. And Griffin, what's your thoughts on this contract and that you're getting Tyler Myers back on this team for 3 more years?
I love it. I was very worried that they weren't going to be able to get him. He was one of those UFAs that there was like optimism that they were going to sign him, but there was always that little shred of doubt where, okay, maybe reports are coming out that he's going to test free agency. And that personally had me very worried because I loved how he played in the playoffs this year. I thought he did a great job at containing McDavid, not in a physical sense, but as far as just in a size sense. He's very tall and very lanky. He can cover a lot of the ice in a very small width with his big arm span, so he can kind of limit players, especially a player like Connor McDavid. So that was awesome to see. So it's good to have him coming back, taking a bit of a hometown deal almost, where guys like Tanev, like you said, are going for a lot more of a price tag. I mentioned that Tanev would have been a good replacement for him had they not been able to land him, but the fact that they were able to land Tyler Myers makes it even better as far as what the Vancouver Canucks are going to look like going forward. I've said time and time again, most recently, where team chemistry is going to be the biggest thing for the Canucks heading into next season, where these guys had amazing chemistry last year. The team really came together and banded behind Rick Tocchet. So if they're having another guy who's returning rather than bringing in a new guy, that's going to do so much more for the team chemistry, and just even more so the development of Quinn Hughes, where his defensive players are not going to be changing very much. So there's not going to be a lot of shakeup in that defensive core. So I think he's going to be the one who benefits the most out of that.
Yeah, and the big thing is it seems like everyone on this team, management, the dressing room, everywhere within this organization loves how Tyler Myers has been playing with the chemistry on this team. So getting him back on this cheaper deal, $3 million, when he could have fetched more in free agency, is just massive for this team. I mean, when you look at Tyler Myers, he's been consistently healthy over his seasons with the Canucks. We see last season, 77 games played, 5 goals, 24 assists for 29 points. We see 136 block shots, 110 hits. This guy is a big body. This is exactly what you need on this back end to play with this talented group. We're seeing Tyler Myers put his body on the line. The Chaos Giraffe is back for 3 more years, and he does help with this team as well, where the team is looking at the point of still having roughly $15 million in cap space. And Griffin, were you surprised he only took $3 million, or were you expecting a tiny bit more, a tiny bit less?
There was rumors that it was going to be a hometown discount, so it doesn't surprise me to see that he is taking a bit less than what the regular market seems to be for defensive free agents. You see guys like Tanev, like we said, going for a lot higher. So the fact that he was able to get a deal with the Canucks done that wasn't a 2 cap detrimental, I think that's huge for Vancouver, because with the big signing of Joshua earlier today, that alone gave me not too much optimism of them being able to land Tyler Myers. We were even discussing about how we might have been talking about him testing free agency, and then all of a sudden, boom, he gets signed with a great surprise. So I think that's going to be great for the Canucks, and I'm very happy that they were able to bring him back. It is a bit more than I thought he was going to take, but again, I love that it's not too much. These little they're not little signings, but these ones that are a bit shorter term and not as big in numbers, they have been very cap friendly to the Canucks. So it's awesome to see them making these cap-friendly deals while also making the big signings like Filip Hronek and Dakota Joshua like we saw earlier.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we've seen Patrik Allvin really come out of the shadows in the past 24 hours, trading Ilya Mikheyev yesterday, signing Dakota Joshua today just to sign Tyler Myers. And like we were kind of saying, this team still does have roughly 15 million if Tucker Pullman does stay on LTIR to work with. The big thing to know with this as well is that OEL's buyout this season is roughly 2.3 million. It does jump up to, I believe, 4.7. So you still need to factor in the sense that it's going to be 2 more mil against the cap. So you might only get to spend 12 mil of this 14 in this free agency, so you can just kind of get ahead of yourself for next free agency. But this team is looking good with Tyler Myers on the back end. You still have all your pieces. The 2 biggest names obviously left out, not signed yet, is Nikita Zadorov, who was a fan favorite, and I'm hoping we do get a video out tonight on him re-signing. And then we see Ian Cole, who's going to touch into free agency. He's going to go on to a new team. But Griffen, what's your thoughts on just Tyler Myers getting signed? And do you have any optimism for a guy like Zadorov coming back?
I think it almost seemed like a bit of a question of whether they were going to get Zadorov or Joshua. You knew they weren't going to get both, and Lindholm was the other one in there that was a potential question mark. And it wasn't going to seem likely they were going to get all 3 of those guys, very much so, and let alone 2 out of those 3. So I think with Lindholm leaving and with Zadorov, I think he might have priced himself out. It depends on if Tocchet did in fact go into management and say, hey, no matter what it takes, let's get a deal done with these guys and bring them back. So maybe a Zadorov deal is coming soon. That would be amazing to see and be a big sigh of relief for a lot of fans and helping with our stress levels a bit. But again, if they don't, there's going to be 2 big holes to fill on defense where a guy like Mike Riley from the New York Islanders, he could be ready for a new home and a new emergence with the Vancouver Canucks. Or if you do get Zadorov, again, you don't have to do too much shakeup. It's just going to help the team chemistry and help everyone involved all around.
And the big thing is listen, I do want Zadorov signed. I know multiple fans want the same. But when you're really looking at this team as a whole, and this is what the team would look like going into next season right now, if you kind of just take their lineup from last year and combine some of the signings from this year, you can see that guys like Teddy Bluger was brought back, Dakota Joshua was brought back, but the defense is really starting to shape up. Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek would be on the first pairing. You still have Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers on the second pairing. So bringing in a guy or bringing back a guy like Nikita Zadorov to take over Mark Friedman's spot on that third pairing at $5 million, if he is signed for that, is a little bit of a price tag. You do need to add another veteran guy onto the back end on that third pairing, as a guy like Juleson and Friedman might not have enough experience to play together in the NHL, especially in the playoffs, but you still need to sign the right wing. Shilovs needs to be signed. So if Zadorov leaves, this is not the end of the world. You still have an incredible top 6 to work with. You still need other areas to clean up a third pairing defenseman. You could go out and pick someone up for a lot cheaper than $5 million. You still need that backup goaltender, like Shilov said. There was reports that Casey Smith might be coming back to the Vancouver Canucks, which we will touch on later. But you still need to fill out a couple things. And just looking at the lineup, Griffen, what's your most top priority that you want filled out first?
I think definitely that third left-hand defenseman spot is the biggest one. I don't think Mark Friedman is going to get it done. I think he's not much of a household name either, especially when he's paired with Noah Juleson. If Zadorov is paired with Juleson, I think that's a decent pairing, and Juleson could definitely benefit from it, and you'd see his production skyrocket. But if you have Juleson and Friedman together, I don't know if that's a pairing that's going to produce a lot of points or contribute to a lot of production on the ice. So again, if you're going to keep a guy like Zadorov, I think he'll pair well with Juleson. But the other one I'm looking at is that right wing spot. I think they are going to go after a guy like Jake Guentzel or Tyler Toffoli. I know everyone's been debating on whether they want who they want more, and it seems to be more towards the leaning of Guentzel. However, with all these big signings coming out, Guentzel was someone that I thought they might have a shot of getting if they didn't sign Dakota Joshua. But because they did, I don't know if that's going to be as likely for them to get Guentzel. I think Tyler Toffoli will be coming to Vancouver if that's the case. Because, like you said, if he would fit into that second pairing with Pettersson and Hoglander, there is speed there where Toffoli is lacking. So Hoglander and Pettersson can pick up the slack in that department. So if they don't get Guentzel, at least they have a solid pick in Toffoli. But again, that goalie situation is a little interesting as well. If DeSmith does come back, like you said, that would be very surprising. but I think definitely that right wing and left-handed defenseman spot are the biggest ones to fill for sure.
And the biggest thing is we've seen Patrik Allvin do so much work in the past 24 hours, but he's not going to be done. We still have free agency starting on Monday. We still have the draft starting tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of hectic stuff. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on the Tyler Myers contract? Who do you want to fill in that right-handed spot on PD's line? Who do you like as a third pairing lefty? Let us know down in the comments. And speaking of comments, let's get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. Comment of the day comes from Airdrifter. He says, this organization is making all the right moves, and I completely agree. We've seen Allvin management. They all are working the phones. They're working things. This is not a Jim Benning situation where he's going to overpay for someone. He's not going to give Tyler Myers an 8x8 contract at the age of 32, 33, whatever he might be. We're seeing this management really build this team for now, for the future, and everything in between. But what's your guys' thoughts on everything like this? If you do, leave a comment. You could be featured on the next episode like Airdrifter did today. And we'd love to read it and put you on as comment of the day. While you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We're trying to reach 3,000 before tomorrow's draft. So make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. But I've been your host, Mark Pye, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.